It's been another month and I played some more games, so let's just do it. Here's what I played in May. I started off the month by jumping back into Skyrim for the first time in 12 or so years, or at least the first time I've done a substantial playthrough in 12 years. For those who watch a lot of my main channel videos, you've probably picked up on the fact that I am not the biggest fan of Skyrim, as I use it as a punching bag pretty regularly. There is a lot about its design philosophy I don't vibe with, making it an easy target, but as it's been so long since I actually last played it, I wanted to see if I'd feel different about it now. And, it's complicated. I have a main channel video that goes more in depth about it, so I don't want to dive too deep into it here, but it definitely is one of the most fascinating games ever made. It does so much, and there is a uniqueness to it that is unparalleled. I don't fully think that's a good thing, but it does make it stand out all these years later. No one else really makes games that hits the same notes as Bethesda titles, and Skyrim is a shining example of that. It is so ambitious and also so broken. And while that combo might seem off-putting, there is something strangely alluring about it. Skyrim released in an era where being broken at launch wasn't the norm, and I imagine this made its messed up launch state feel more like a novelty instead of a widespread problem. The bugs and its issues in general have grown a reputation as a sort of feature instead of as a failure of the studio. And yeah, I don't know, even as someone who is extremely lukewarm about Skyrim, I think I would like it less if the NPCs didn't act so weird, or if the physics worked all the time. There are certainly aspects of the game that I do think are just bad, but also part of the fun is seeing the system stretch and try to make sense of what is going on. It is a weird game that I probably will be trying to make sense of for the rest of my life. Replaying it has given me like 3 or 4 ideas for videos, and they are ones I'm really excited to make, so I guess expect to see me yap about Skyrim for a while on the main channel. It's always nice to jump back into a game you thought was well in your past to find that you still have a lot of thoughts about it and things you want to experience within it. So yeah, Skyrim is a video game, one that I kind of hate, and one that I kind of love, and that's where we'll leave it for now. In the middle of my Skyrim playthrough, I got sent a review code for Animal Well, and as I was looking for anything to distract me from playing more Skyrim, I jumped deep into it and had an awesome time. Animal Well is the kind of secret-based game that I love to play. There are just so many things to uncover, and many solutions to problems are wildly obscure, which makes figuring them out feel incredibly special. I can't really think of many Metroidvanias that take the combatless route, as fighting stuff is generally a pretty important part of the genre, but Animal Well manages to pull it off without a hitch. It's filled with thoughtful and fun puzzles, and the items you get throughout all have unique uses that continuously make you look at the world in new ways. The openness of it is truly astounding. From the start, you can follow any path and find meaningful progress, which is a type of freedom that I really love. Once you hit a certain point in each area though, you will need an item from a different one in order to keep moving forward, so the game is always pushing you to explore new places and then come back to old ones with new abilities and understandings of how the world works. A line that the developer, Basso, used in the marketing of the game was that he wanted to create a world to explore that felt familiar but also always had new things to discover, and the way the game is designed very much achieves this. Up until near the end of the playthrough, backtracking rarely felt like backtracking, as there was always something new to find in places you completely looked past before. I ended up beating the base game and then getting all the eggs, which is the main collectible, and for the most part that was a ton of fun, although I will admit that the backtracking did start to feel more like backtracking once I only had a couple left to find. Ultimately, there aren't tons of games like Animal Well, and I think that alone makes it worth playing. If you love secrets, then it's easily for you. There's so much to dig into and figure out, and yeah, depending on your interests, it could give you dozens and dozens of hours of entertainment. Now, normally I just talk about the games themselves, but I do want to take a minute to focus on Animal Well's publisher, Bigmode, as I think it's a pretty cool success story. When Dunkey first announced that he and his wife Leah were launching Bigmode, a lot of people were pretty surprised and didn't really know what to think of it. In general, Dunkey's work walks a line between sincerity and satire, which can make it hard to know how seriously to take anything he puts out there, and as the announcement video felt pretty in line with other things he's made, it led a lot of people to wonder what the company would actually look like. Obviously, it was meant to be a hype piece for the brand, but it left the door open for a lot of questions on how they'd actually be running their business. Personally, I had no idea how how it would turn out. I worried a bit that they were running just on vibes, but also figured that they must have done their research if they were going to pursue an endeavor like this. Regardless, I was intrigued to see what would happen, as no matter what, it'd be a valuable journey to witness. If it didn't go super well, it'd be a learning lesson on the difficulties that come with publishing video games and how it's not something to take lightly, and if it succeeded, it'd be a roadmap on how to leverage a YouTube career into something bigger. Also, it'd be kind of funny because it's Dunkey, a guy who most people see as an internet funny man and not someone who'd start a business like this. Looking at how things have gone now, I think the fact that he is internet funny man Dunkey is a big part of what has made this all work. He's done everything good publishers do while also unabashedly being himself. For instance, the game was featured in a Nintendo Indie World, putting tons of eyes on it, but the spot focused more on him and Billy Basso being goofy than the game itself, which actually allowed it to stand out amongst the many more typical announcements of that presentation. Also, the review code I got for the game was sent well before the release, which is amazing for a title like this that has so much to discover within it, as it gives reviewers the proper time to actually get through it and form cohesive thoughts about it. And the email was written by Dunkey in a very Dunkey fashion, so it stood out in the inbox in a way that most emails I get from indie publishers don't. The point is, I think they have done a great job of following a lot of the best practices for publishers while also holding on to the strong identity that made the business possible in the first place. It's like an unprofessional professionalism. It's obviously early on in their journey, so I don't want to overemphasize anything, but I think this is a really great start, and I look forward to what they do next. To finish off the month, I played through Elden Ring. Again. I wanted to have a character prepare for the DLC as my main file is in New Game Plus 4, and I've learned the hard way in the past that playing FromSoft DLC on New Game Plus makes for an especially miserable time. As I was just trying to set up a character, I wanted to beat it as quickly as possible. So my first goal was to get to Mogan Palace in order to grind against the enemies there and get to rune level 130, as that's the level I wanted to enter the DLC at, and it was kind of fun doing an exploit run like this. I watched plenty of videos of other people doing stuff to get super powerful early, so I had a good idea of the different things I needed to do. And yeah, while I wouldn't suggest doing any of this stuff on a first playthrough, it is still fun to see some of the ways you can cheese and break the game. However, after playing for a while, I was just having a lot of fun and kind of lost steam with the whole beating it as quickly as I could thing, and instead did all the remembrance bosses, collected tons of spells and weapons that I won't ever equip because I can't bring myself to use anything aside from the greatsword, gathered all the golden seeds, sacred tears, and physic tears, and stocked up on tons of upgrade materials. Not to keep shitting on Skyrim, but as I was playing them both simultaneously, I think part of why I ended up doing more stuff in Elden Ring was just because I found it so much more enjoyable to play than Skyrim. Obviously, they are very different types of open world games that are trying to do very different things, so I don't want to compare them beat for beat, but yeah, I much prefer Elden Ring's approach to its open world, and when choosing between which one I wanted to keep jumping back into, it was hard for me not to pick it over Skyrim. The other major reason I ended up doing way more in this playthrough than I initially intended is that I wanted to get used to playing the game again, as I figured the DLC would pick up at the level of difficulty that the base game ended on, so it'd be worthwhile to get some real practice in. And yeah, by the end I felt like I was kind of good again. Anyway, as a result of this playthrough, as well as the Reforged playthrough I did earlier in the year, Elden Ring has become my most played game on Steam by a lot, which is pretty wild as I'm not tired of playing it yet. And honestly, I still haven't experienced most of what the game has to offer, as I've been pretty limited in the playstyles I've gone with. I don't think it is my most played game ever. I spent far too many weekends playing Brawl in my basement with friends, and there is a year of my life where I put more time into playing Minecraft than I did into school, I think. But it is up there, and as there is a whole lot I want to engage with still, I imagine it eventually will take that top spot. It is not my favorite FromSoft game, but it certainly is a special one that offers a wild amount of value. With that said, once I get through the DLC, I need to play some other games, as I like variety and don't want to spend my whole life on one title. Anyway, that's all. I'll see you next time unless I decide to stop doing this. And don't take that as a threat, it's just a reminder. Okay.